Here's the guts of a Hypercom T7E credit card and debit card processing terminal. First off is the main board from the unit. Over here is the power supply section, which is a somewhat oddball 3-pin connector for the 24-volt supply. Can't tell whether or not it's 1 ampere or 0.1 amperes because there's a decimal place there. Don't know whether that's meant as a period after the DC indication symbol or the decimal place in the current rating, but it's very bad practice to have a decimal place without a leading zero. But anyways, it might be 1 ampere because this could be feeding the printer. I only got this unit. I did not get a printer with this unit, so I don't know whether or not that's supplied separately, but there are some fairly substantial tracks on the PCB leading to the printer connection, which is a somewhat unusual 23-pin D-sub connector. I think it's not 26-pin D-sub connector. So this could be supplying a printer as well, and that explains the somewhat high current rating. Then there's a tip 107 power transistor being used to drive the coil for a this might be being used as a transformer to generate multiple supply rails in this thing, because the MC34063 that is controlling everything in the power supply can do that, among other functions. Fairly versatile chip. Couple probably Schottky or ultra-fast silicon, most likely the former, rectifiers down there. Various ripple suppression capacitors for the various supply rails, one of which this capson unit, or capson capacitor, however you pronounce it, is bulging slightly, because the capson are generally fairly crappy capacitors. Now, EEV blog had some liquid crystal display computer monitors that he pulled from the trash that had died due to capson capacitors, and I had that Kobe television that died due to capson capacitors in the piece of crap power supply, but I just grafted on a new one. I didn't bother fixing the piece of crap that was in it originally. Then there's this chip, a marked 3771. Couldn't find any information on that, but that's the only real mystery chip in this thing. So it's fairly good as far as seeing what's in here. There's a pair of SRM20100LM85 SRAM chips. And this device, which couldn't find any information on it, it's a SRM20257LM10. But judging by the part number, that's probably memory. These could be for storing things like encryption protocols for the card data. And they're listed as being, at least these two have about a 2 microampere standby current. So that would be possible to drive them off of this CR2032 lithium coin cell, which also is the backup supply for the M6242B. It's a real-time clock and calendar chip, and of course its associated 32,768 cycle per second watch crystal. And over here there are some various 74HC series ETL chips performing various logic functions. There's the main processor, a Z80, and its associated clock crystal. Pair of TL072 operational amplifiers. This switch is a 73K222SL single chip modem and its crystal. And then various modem stuff, some line control relays, isolation transformer, some optos, and input capacitors and the like. This RJ11 socket is the actual telephone connection. So there are a couple others. This one, which is for a remote keypad, and the DS75176. That is a RS422 and RS485 transceiver chip. For that, this, which I don't know what it does, it was covered up on the side by the case by a little knockout thing. And this, which is somewhat interesting to see, is a surge suppression. This is a gas discharge tube. Usually see somewhat less reliable metal oxide varistors. The thing with these is that they're a lot slower, so generally a good solution is to employ these in association with transient suppression diodes. But anyways, and there's this, which is a RS232 port. It's a RJ45 connection being used the same, or jack. That is probably to communicate with a cash register or point of sale terminal. And it has some associated chips, a MC145406, which is an RS232 transceiver, and this, which is a SN75018 line buffer. Some more TTL chips. This, which is an EEPROM for firmware. Some 74HC374s, which are octal D flip-flops, and a 74HC244 line buffer. That's pretty much it for this side of the board. On the other side, there's pretty much bypass caps and not very interesting stuff like that on most of it. One interesting thing to note, though, is that there's some inductors on the PCB actually printed in the copper. See L9, L2, L3, and L8 right there. Little spirally things right there. That's somewhat unusual. Other than that, again, nothing really super fancy. Although there is a Asea Brown Bovary sticker, so that might be who actually made the PCB, or who actually just made the unit and was just branded Hypercom. And here there are, on the other side of this, there's the stripe reader, nothing fancy, edge connection, and a pair of Magtech branded, likely custom chips, which are, their part numbers 21006506, both of them. Those are probably just custom card stripe reader chips. And one fairly interesting bod board, which has a pair of what I think are transistors, and there might be diodes, some resistors, and a MOF package diode. And this thing is all marked with, on the solder, or on the copper layer, with the pins that it's connected, which is somewhat interesting. Like this, which is 34 and 33, which go to pin 34 and pin 33 respectively on this header socket. And there's another one marked V and G, which is a supply rail and ground. Those connect to that bypass capacitor there, and these connections, which are marked 1, 15, and 16, which go to the corresponding pins on this chip. So it was probably for ease of assembly just marked with the associated pins that it's supposed to connect to. So, and there's a liquid crystal display and some LCD driver chips. Nothing fairly fancy there. Just standard single package unit just stuck in a, or just mounted on a PCB. Connector for the stripe reader. And on the other side of this there's some bypass caps and nothing fancy. And the connections for the membrane keypad. And this, which is a piezo buzzer. And pretty much it for the gets of the thing. Nothing really super fancy. One interesting thing to note, though, is that there doesn't seem to be any of the very heavy card protection stuff that you see in modern things. But then again, this thing is made in late 1992 or early 1993, and skimmers really didn't exist back then, so there wasn't all the security problems that there are now. Because I know Mike's Electric Stuff did a teardown of a portable version of one of these, and there's loads and loads and loads of features in that which are pretty much designed to make sure that the thing commits suicide if it's tampered with, and then they need to send it back to the company and they need to inspect it and reauthorize and do all kinds of complicated whatnot to make the thing work again. So, and this doesn't seem to have any of that unless there's something like traces on or pins on this which are just jumper together, and if the connection's broken then the thing shuts off. But I don't see any kind of support chips that are designed to do that, because there are support chips available that will do that in hardware, but this doesn't seem to have any of that. So